The following podcast contains spoilers for Stree. You have been warned!
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to KFR News Radio. This is your host, Glenjamin Button, along with your spooky gooky host, Mikael Magusta.
I guess that's me.
Spooky gooky.
How you doing, Glenn?
I am surviving the night and day, waiting for Halloween to creep up on us, my friend.
Yes. It is the last week of our spooktacular. Halloween is this Saturday. By the time this episode comes out, Halloween would have come and gone. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean the spooks don't keep going. So we're going to talk about Stree a little bit later, a little Bollywood movie involving spooky things.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, Glenjamin Button, is there any movies that you want to discuss beforehand?
So I know you saw on Instagram, but do you just want to take a gander at how well I did this week?
Yeah, I want to take a gander. I think you told me before we recorded this, but I feel like
I definitely didn't. Definitely didn't just break the immersion of the viewers here.
I mean, how many movies did you watch last week, Glenn?
Yeah, totally news. I watched 7 movies, including Stree.
Hey,
which
that's
is
pretty good for you.
It's pretty much one a night at a certain point.
Yeah.
But I did not do one a night. I straight up watched, I could not sleep one night, and I watched 3 or 4 movies out of nowhere. I'm like, you know what? So what is sleep anyway? So to begin it all off, I watched Wildlife, which is a Paul Dano film.
Yeah, we discussed this one briefly, just because I love that movie. Jake
Gyllenhaal, Carey Mulligan. There's a lot of people in there, so we're gonna make these quick because I know you watched a lot of movies too. So.
No, I didn't. I didn't watch a lot this week. No.
Well, you watched as much as I did, and altogether, that's basically 14 films we both knocked out. Wildlife, that was a great film. I loved it. It was fantastic. Everybody was fantastic. I loved it. It was beautiful. I feel like Trump. The next one.
The best movies.
Best movie.
Very good.
Easy.
Best movies.
The next one I watched was Alpha Dog, which was Emil Hirsch, Bruce Willis, Amanda Seyfried, Justin Timberlake, and your boy, Jesus, I forget his name. Jesus. He's in there.
Dennis Hopper?
No, he's
Alpha Dog. I'm thinking
he's
Alpha Omega.
credited so low that he's not even
Anton Yelchin.
The reason why I really enjoyed this movie was straight up just Justin Timberlake's way better than I thought he would be.
Yeah, and
Anton Yelchin absolutely kills it. Just throughout the whole movie, but at the end, he straight up breaks your heart.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's definitely an okay watch.
I believe that's based on a true story too.
It is. I straight up researched the hell out of it afterwards. Yeah. I'm like, Jesus. Mm-hmm. So there was that movie. It was pretty good. A little dated, but moving on. The next movie I watched was White Zombie from 1932. Straight up whipped out a classic film. So this one I watched, but it was more of I tagged along to watch it.
I was really proud when I saw that you watched that, just because it is an old movie.
Well, I'm about to break your heart.
Oh, no.
So because I'm trying to broaden my horizons on my other hobby, one of my buddies on Twitch was doing a movie roast night, and this was one of them. So I roasted this movie, but also I enjoyed it a lot.
Well, it's from the 30s, right?
Yeah. So I enjoyed it. It was great for its time, but I had to watch it as a movie critic, but also roast it as the funny guy, which kind of tore my heart in half. Mm-hmm. Because I did wish I saw this movie in just without having to roast it, but I mean overall it was really well done for its time, and it was really good.
Yeah.
But moving on.
That's you didn't watch that on the Criterion channel, did you?
No, I think it was on. It was actually on YouTube, I think.
Because you watched a lot of movies this week, at least the ones that I saw that you posted on Instagram, that are available on the Criterion channel. I was like, does he already have my login?
I mean, by the way, I could, but
you can take my login for a Criterion channel if you want.
Technically, I could do that, but no, I have not done that yet.
Yeah.
But I will. The next one I watched was Yes, God, Yes, which was on Netflix. It was it's got Natalia Dyer, Alicia Bowe. I think Natalia's from Stranger Things, and I think is it Alicia? One of the other characters or actors in this movie is from 13 Reasons Why? Is that what it's called? Yeah, I think
that
so.
is a thing. I don't know if
I think that's the other one. But there were two Netflix babies in this movie. But this movie, I'm actually glad it was so short because it didn't overstay its welcome in any way. It was like an hour and 10 minutes, and Natalia Dyer was great in it. The premise was great. I'm not even a religious guy, but I mean this was there. I think you watched it too. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I did.
This was a pretty good film. I liked it.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on to a movie that we actually did a trailer reaction for, Buster's Mall Heart.
Yeah, I watched that a few years ago.
Or is it
I actually own it on
Buster's Mall Heart?
I think it's Malheart. I could be wrong.
Is it Mal?
Yeah.
Meow.
But yeah, I have that on Blu-ray. I've only watched it once, but I have it.
Listen, I watched it. It was pretty good. I liked it. I definitely liked how they ended it.
Yeah.
Like how towards the end of it, more than I did the beginning of it.
Yeah, it's very understated, but it pays off in my opinion.
But I love Rami. He's always fantastic in everything he's in, and he's always sleep deprived. And I wish him the best when he's sitting on a pillow. But yeah, that was a good movie. And the last one I watched was Virgin Suicides because you brought it up last week, and I'm like, I got to rewatch that movie because I'm not gonna lie. For the longest time, and I don't know why, this was my child brain. You know, this came out when I was 6. This was my child brain thinking the 4 kids at the end of the movie that were neighbors, I thought they were the Beatles for some reason. And I won't lie about that. Remember, this is my child brain. And for the longest time, I thought this movie was about the Beatles committing suicide with these girls. And I didn't want to bring that up last week, but I'm bringing it up for self-embarrassment, and here we are. Regardless, the Virgin Suicides. You know how crazy my life has been thinking the Beatles committed suicide? And then growing up, I'm like, what the fuck's going on?
Did you not know Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr are still alive?
No. What it was the guy was in the fucking Super Bowl, and my mind was blown. I'm like, how did he just reincarnate?
I mean, John Lennon was murdered. George Harrison, I think he was murdered. He was definitely stabbed. I don't know if he died from that or from cancer later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's only 2 left. But they did not commit suicide.
But I mean, obviously, growing up, I found that out. But
yeah,
watching this movie, my fucking mind was blown. I'm like, why would the Beatles be in a suicide pact?
That's my favorite thing, honestly.
My smallest 6-year-old brain was just blown away by this. But I do love this movie. It's great. Kirsten Dunst is fantastic. I didn't even realize James Woods was in this. I totally forgot.
Yeah.
And Josh Hartnett. But yeah, besides
Hartnett.
Yes, sorry. My T's are real soft today. Even though I just whatever. But other than Stree, that was all I watched. Mike, hit me, baby.
So I got a confession. Remember earlier in the podcast when I said I didn't watch that many movies?
Yeah, I know.
That was a lie.
I know. I watched.
They say it couldn't be done. They all doubted me. They said I was crazy. But I watched, and I proved them wrong by watching 25 movies this week.
Was it really that many?
It was that many. Breaking my record from last week of 19, I think it was.
Jesus Christ.
I broke the threshold of 20. None of them were rewatches, mind you.
Really?
And watched 25 movies.
I saw you slipped up. You like to do Mike's screenings, and I like to do, or Mike is screening, and then I like to do Glenn's watch.
I switch it up.
Yeah, I saw. I was like, he put a watch. I'm breaking through the barriers, boys.
So the first one, I'm just going to try to go through these as fast as possible, just to, not waste people's time. The first one I watched is Don't Look Now, which is like a horror movie from 1973 with Donald Sutherland. That was really good. I highly enjoy that. That's on the Criterion channel, Glenn, just as a heads up.
I'm going to steal your password, baby.
Yeah. Then I watched Videodrome, which is with James Woods, directed by David Cronenberg from 1983. That was pretty good. I really enjoyed that. Definitely has the David Cronenberg feel of kind of icky sex vibes throughout the entire thing. Then I watched the 2018 version of Fahrenheit 451 with Michael B. Jordan and Michael Shannon. I really enjoyed that. I don't want to say really enjoyed that. I enjoyed that more than most people.
I did watch that. I didn't like it that much, I don't think.
Yeah, I think it's better than what people thought it was. I mean, it's obviously a classic book. Nothing's good. I haven't seen the version from the 60s or 70s.
Yeah, I haven't. I didn't know anything about it. I just watched the movie, not knowing anything.
The book is really good, so I can see why people are rating it low there. But I enjoyed it. Then I watched a Japanese movie called One Cut of the Dead, which is a horror comedy that starts off with a one cut of a zombie movie for like 30 minutes. And it's really compelling, and then halfway through it just switches completely, and it's actually like a movie about making a one-cut movie. I really enjoyed that, so I suggest One Cut of the Dead if anyone can check that out.
Okay.
Then I watched a movie from 1944 called The Phantom Lady. It is directed by Rob Sidamak or something like that. It's about this guy who's kind of framed for murder, but the night the murder happens, he was with this woman whose name he did not get because it was kind of like they were both depressed and just wanted to spend time with each other without knowing each other's names. Yeah, Rob Siadamak, or Siadmak. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm gonna stop trying.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was really good. From the 1940s. Then I watched the Amityville Horror from 1979 with James Brolin, Josh Brolin's dad. Yeah, I thought it was pretty solid. You know, I get the hubbub. I'm still not big into horror, but
yeah, this is one of those classics for me and my family, or at least like me. This is one of the ones growing up that I used to watch all the time. And I know a lot of people hated the remake with Ryan Reynolds, but I really like that one too.
I didn't watch that one yet,
But yeah, I really liked the Amityville series because like just the haunted house like thing that really like was really cool for me. But then I realized that people make a lot of those movies, and I was like, oh,
Then I watched Yes God Yes with Natalia Dyer. You talked about briefly. I really enjoyed that.
Did we watch that the same week?
Yeah.
Holy shit! I didn't even know that.
That's because I just bombarded you with a bunch of movies, so it got buried. But I, having grown up the son of a pastor, I can attest that all Christian retreats are very similar to that, and it's just like back off. So I kind of got like slight PTSD from those. Like, no, no. I will say this: they're not as intrusive as they are in this, and they're not as judgmental as they are in this. But it's still
the gossip and the drama in this movie is it hurts. It's definitely more of a high school thing than it was probably like a
absolutely
faith thing. But absolutely. Oh my god!
But my experience with Christian retreats weren't that much, but it's like an exaggerated version of what they're actually like. And then I watched a movie on Netflix called Rebecca. It is based off of a book which was made into the Academy Award Best Picture winner from 43 or 44, I think, directed by Hitchcock. This one was starring Armie Hammer and Lily James.
I was actually debating watching that this week too.
It's pretty good. I would personally suggest the Hitchcock version above this one, just because it's told in a better fashion, in my opinion, than this one. This one kind of, by nature and by how it's edited, gets rid of the mystery.
Yeah,
pretty much right off the bat. Whereas the Hitchcock one builds the suspense and mystery more. As the king of suspense is one to do. And then I watched my Papa Hicks's favorite movie, The Elephant Man.
Papa Hicks.
He bought it by my request for my birthday. I just got around to watching it because it was just released on the Criterion Collection, which he got me the Criterion Collection version.
Oh.
And so I watched it, and I completely understand why it's his favorite film. It's a phenomenal movie. It's David Lynch. I don't know if you know much about David Lynch. He usually does really weird movies. This is definitely David Lynch toned down for the sake of the story. And
This
honestly,
is one that's been on my watch list.
Yeah,
Here.
I wish David Lynch was toned down all the time. I get why people like the craziness of David Lynch, but it's not for me.
Yeah.
But I really love The Elephant Man. Highly suggest that. Then I watched a movie directed and starring Albert Brooks, who you will know as the main bad guy in Drive. He used to be, well, he's I think he still is. He's like a big comedy actor from the 70s and 80s, I think, and also directed a lot of comedy films. This one's called Lost in America. It's about him and his wife kind of get tired of working their asses off to not be appreciated in their job, so they leave their life with a whole bunch of money, and then the first night his wife, who has a gambling problem, loses all the money. And it's a really funny movie. I really enjoyed it. So I do suggest people check that out. Lost in America, which is also on the Criterion Channel, Glenn. Then I watched Rushmore, Wes Anderson's first film or second film, one of his earlier films. Jason Schwartzman's first film for sure. It's about this student who is super pretentious but not a great student, even though he thinks he is a great student, and is in love with his teacher and doesn't understand why she doesn't love him back.
Doesn't understand that.
Yeah, doesn't understand why that's creepy. I really enjoyed it. It's a good movie. Got Bill Murray. Bill Murray's great as usual. Then I watched a 1977 horror movie called The Car, about a demon-possessed car that kills people. Also with James Brolin.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know until it started playing. And I was like, "Is that James Brolin?" And it was. It's a solid movie. Solid horror movie. It's dumb, but it knows it's dumb.
I mean, yeah.
It's a dumb
Kinda
concept.
has to.
Yeah. Then I watched Anna and the Apocalypse, which is a horror comedy musical from England, where it's like a musical where they fight and kill zombies around Christmas time.
Yeah.
It's fine. I wish it didn't have the musical element in it, but they tried something different, and it is what it is. Then I watched Stree, which we'll get to in a minute. Then I watched a South Korean movie. Jesus Christ, I'm only like halfway through. I watched a South Korean movie called Save the Green Planet. It was a very ungenred movie. Like it's like a horror, but also a thriller, but also a comedy.
It's got too many things going on.
Well, I enjoyed it for that.
A lot of things going on.
Yeah, I enjoyed it for that, but it's still wasn't amazing. But it was definitely I respect what they were trying to do. Then I watched a film called The Mill and the Cross, which is entirely about a painting from this one guy. My uncle bought it for me a few birthdays back, like I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, and I just got around to watching it. Visually, it's incredible. Story-wise, it's lacking. But, I enjoyed it for the most part. Then I watched Sofia Coppola's new movie, On the Rocks. Really enjoyed that. Bill Murray's best performance in a long time, in my opinion, and Rashida Jones is in it. It's great as usual. Then I watched Girl Interrupted with Winona Ryder, Angelina Jolie, directed by his name. I'm slacking on his name, but he's the guy who directed Logan and 3:10 to Yuma. Oh fuck, what's his name? I'm sorry, I have to get his name, or else I'm not gonna be able to.
No, I don't blame you. Like, he's doing a movie.
James Mangold.
Yeah, he's doing another movie soon. I think
that was really good. Really enjoyed that. Then I watched a movie from Thailand.
Ooh.
Called Uncle Boomy Can Recall His Past Lives. It's like a very cerebral, existential film where this guy's dying, and it's just kind of him accepting death, and then his family accepting death, and it's very interesting, very experimental, which I really enjoyed.
Okay.
Then I watched an Icelandic movie. I'm just all over the continent or the country.
Really jumping.
I watched an Icelandic movie called Woman at War, which was fantastic. It's about a woman who's like sabotaging the electric companies in Iceland because they are working with known polluters, and she's trying to save the world from global warming. But then she finds out she's been accepted to adopt a little girl, which she had forgotten about because she applied for it like 4 or 5 years ago, and then they never got back to her, which is why she went on sabotaging. So it's kind of her struggling with should she keep sabotaging to save the planet, or should she save this little girl?
Shave the little girl.
Should she shave the... it's really phenomenal. I really enjoyed it. Highly suggest Woman at War. Then I watched Elvis and Nixon, which is a movie about Elvis meeting Nixon because he wanted to be a secret agent. which is a 100% true story. There are government documents on this.
Yeah.
And it's bonkers. It's fine, though. The movie's all right. Then I watched The Hours with Meryl Streep, Julianne Moore, and Nicole Kidman. Holy depressing shit, Batman. That movie was depressing
Really?
as shit. The whole movie is about suicide and how
Who's it,
suicide.
Julianne Moore's?
Julianne Moore.
Okay.
And Nicole Kidman, Meryl Streep. It's from 2002. It's really good. I highly suggest it, but it is depressing. Then I watched Hellraiser, which is the classic horror movie from '87. Honestly, this is the first classic horror movie I've watched that it's still pretty terrifying today, but that's mainly because of like body horror stuff. It's not actually scary. It's just gross.
Yeah, this is one of those movies that I think I watched for like 10 minutes because I was trying to find a movie and then stopped to find another movie.
Yeah, it's
like no offense to it, but I was not in the mood for it.
My lunch came while it was playing, and I had to watch something else while I was eating my lunch. That's how disgusting it is. But it's solid. It's a fun horror movie. Then I watched a movie called The Assistant, which is about a production assistant of a big time producer, and she suspects that he is sexually harassing women and kind of coercing them into sex and everything. It stars Julia Garner, who is from the show Ozark, you might remember.
Absolutely. This is one that
I don't
was
know
on my
fuck
list to
about
watch
shit,
as well.
or I don't know shit about fuck.
I don't know
whatever.
shit about fuck.
It's the greatest line ever written. Then I watched a documentary called Unacknowledged, and it's essentially it's that alien documentary I was talking about, how like the existence of aliens and their visiting Earth is pretty much undisputable, but it kind of goes into why it's not more widely known. It talks about how even the president is not told this information because there are these people they call the war machine. I forget what the full title is, but it's essentially people who go to war for profit. They're paying people to keep it secret.
Yeah.
And if you didn't hate the government before, you will now.
Yeah. Make sure you send this one to me because I do want to watch this one.
Yeah, we'll do. But yeah, I highly suggest that. And it's not like an amazing. Most of it's just information that was already kind of like people knew but didn't know in full detail, and it goes into detail about it.
Yeah.
And it's really depressing. It kind of insinuates that the aliens, if they were going to attack us, would have already, and the reason that they haven't landed is because they're afraid of us and what we would do, which is because they just see how we treat each other, which is kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
But 100% believable. But yeah, that's all I watched this week.
That's all I watched.
Just a few movies. So let's just get into news real quick. I'm gonna get a drink of water because I need it.
Yeah,
Glenn,
I mean,
you
I
go over the
can
news.
talk about mine, which are both.
I don't have
quick.
any news, so you
Oh,
go
perfect.
about it.
Here's a double dose of comic book news. One was pretty much right after we did the podcast last week. I basically sent your boy Mike here a detailed message of how fucking annoyed I am with this Justice League movie. Or now that I found out, I talked to a buddy. Apparently, it's a miniseries, and my mind was blown. We probably talked about it, and I have no idea. But regardless, now Jared Leto's Joker is going to be attached to it. Which, how overloaded are you going to make this thing?
Really,
it blows my mind. Like, they're adding everybody, and I get it's like straight up, it's Justice League. But now it's just like you're adding every single character that was ever introduced, and it's just blowing my mind. I mean, maybe he'll be like an after credit thing. Maybe not an after credit, but like some sort of like small role, obviously. But Jesus, good Lord, goddamn. Moving on. And then the other thing is your boy Oscar Isaac has been tapped to star in Marvel and Disney Plus series Moon Knight, which Moon Knight is basically kind of Marvel's, and I might get flack for saying this, Batman in a way.
Okay.
But more of like a anti-hero type thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, Oscar Isaac, I love Oscar Isaac no matter what he's in. So, the fact that he gets another role with Marvel that's not what was Apocalypse, because that movie was trash, and he gets another chance to be fucking amazing. I think this is definitely this is like Marvel's Batman, and Oscar Isaac is that Marvel's Batman. That makes me super hype. So, yeah, there's that. And it's going to be just a series, so I don't know how that's going to play out. Like, they're doing a lot of stuff here with Marvel and a Disney series.
Yeah, I mean, Disney announced that they're focusing more on streaming, which annoys the shit out of me. That's another discussion.
Also, Moon Knight is like more of a darker thing, so like compared to how Disney is doing their shtick, it's got to be like a Netflix type series, like Daredevil or any of those ones. Like, it's got to be more towards that, or Punisher even. So, I mean, hopefully they'll do it. Whether or not they do it, that's beyond me. That's another talk down the road when they talk about it more. But other than that, that is all I've got. There's not really much news, considering Corona's still a thing, alive and well.
So, for those of you who listened to last week's podcast, this week is Netflix Roulette. And Netflix Roulette did us dirty by doing all Bollywood and Arabic films. I don't want to say did us dirty, but it didn't give us much of a choice as far as like movies we really wanted to see. So let's get into Stree.
अगले 4 रात वो शिकार पे आने वाली है।
कौन?
स्त्री वो पुरुषों को उठाती है और सिर्फ वस्त्र छोड़ती है। वो पहले तुम्हें तुम्हारे नाम से पुकारेगी। तुम्हें क्या करना है? फौरन चप्पल निकालो, हाथ में लो और भागो।
उसको सबका नाम कैसे पता चल जाता है?
सबका आधार लिंक है उसके पास। कुछ भी हो जाए, पलटना मत।
In the small town of Chanduri, the menfolk live in fear of an evil spirit named Stree, who abducts men in the night, based on the urban legend of Nali Ba that went viral in Karnataka in the 1990s.
Directed by Amar Kaushik and written by Raj Nidimoru, Krishna DK, Sumit Ara, and Pawan Soni. It is starring Raj Kumar Rao, Shraddha Kapoor, Pankaj Tripathi, Apashakti Khurrana, and Abhishek Banjarji. I apologize if there's any fans of Bollywood movies that are listening. We definitely butchered those names, or I definitely butchered those names.
I mean, we're going to butcher them regardless.
We're going to butcher them regardless, but I did my best. So yeah, Netflix Roulette. This was one of the 3 that it picked. It was the one with the highest rating that it picked. And
it definitely seemed one of the more interesting out of the 3.
One of the more interesting, but I still did not have high hopes for it. That is mainly because I am not a huge fan of the Bollywood tradition of making everything just break into song in the middle.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen with this one. There was one song and dance number, but it fit it into the plot.
Yep.
To make it believable where it happened at a party. And then there wasn't anything until the end credits, which, in my opinion, saved the movie for me. I don't know about you, but I actually really enjoyed this one.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. What did you think about it?
So I really was full-fledged into it. Mainly because I had to be, because I couldn't see the lines because everybody was talking so goddamn fast.
Oh yeah,
And I mean, me and you talked about it for a minute. That might be a part of the language. There is just like everything's
quick, short syllables, and they're easy to say in quick succession.
But for big dumb brain like me,
small smooth brain
like me, it was pretty tough, and I watch anime sometimes. It was very tough to try to keep up with it, so I had to pay attention. So, not that this movie wasn't already going to get my attention, I just literally couldn't look away, otherwise I'm missing stuff. I think I was enjoying it for a good hour before, like, nothing, like, there was something happening in the beginning of the movie, but like nothing was really pushing forward for me. So like once that hour mark got there, I'm like, all right, well, something's got to happen. And I don't think anything happened more until the 1.5 hour mark. And that was tough for me. And this movie's 2 hours and 8 minutes. And like I kept waiting. I'm like, all right, when are we going to get to the good stuff? When are we going to get to the good stuff? And then when it finally did, that's when I stopped paying attention as much. That's when I stopped caring as much. Because now I'm just like, all right. So I feel like personally, this movie's like maybe half an hour too long.
I would agree with that. It's really that really weird mark where like from an hour to an hour and a half is completely unnecessary. And then the last half hour, and that's give or take, of course. I'm not talking absolutes, but the first 45 minutes to an hour I found really compelling and interesting as character development. I thought the character development of Vicky and his friends was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, those guys were pretty funny.
The sequence where they kept saying Vicky please.
Yep.
And it just made me, it reminded me of me and my friends, just like how for lack of a better word, cuddly we are.
Yeah.
Like when they're all on the motorcycle and the one in the back is like cuddling his friend in the middle and smiling, that is 100% something me and my friends would do. And I saw a lot of my friendships in these
a lot
characters.
of your group in this movie for sure.
Exactly. And it was just a lot. The comedy transcended language a lot better than I thought it would. Because there's a lot of times where you see comedies from other countries, and it's not that it's unfunny. It's just it references a lot of things that you might
You're not
understand.
really a part of. Yeah.
Yeah, and when it comes to international films, foreign language films, that is 100% the person who is doing subtitles' fault. It's not really, because when you're doing subtitles, you're supposed to change it to references or whatever that the country that the subtitles are for would understand. But in this, it's just all universal stuff, like with a little bit of difference, obviously, how they call it prostitution friendship.
Yeah. I think it was just in that town though, because even at the
just
end,
in that town.
yeah.
But I really, really enjoyed it. It was a lot better than I thought it was. I was laughing out loud a lot more than I thought it would be. And it really surprised me in that asset. And then it got, this is definitely something that is like, because we live in a country where our government tries to make us afraid of other countries so much, or at least I had the incorrect notion that India was very sheltered and didn't have things, or didn't talk widely about things like prostitution or drugs or whatever.
Yeah.
And I thought that they would be censored. So I was kind of surprised that they were in there. Not in a bad way, obviously. I just like it.
Yeah,
It was more relatable.
It was a nice
than I thought
welcome into it.
Exactly, and it was just more relatable. And I thought it had a pretty good horror aspect to it too, with the spirit. But I will agree with you that it took too long for that to develop.
Yeah, I mean, I liked the thing with the Stree itself is like I really liked the visuals on it and everything. I mean, it was definitely creepy to look at, and it definitely had the super horror aspect of, hey, this thing's taken our men are gone because of this ghost. The only thing that took me back was that it kind of just floated and seemed like it was on like a zip line across like streets and stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, other than that, I mean, the ghost looked great, special effects wise and everything.
Oh yeah.
And like especially in the last half hour where you really get to see it, that was like super great. But I mean, and then she looks like she's zipping on a zip line, which then that took me out of like, man, it's so close and so good. And like she's got feet too, and it's just hilarious to see her feet like kind of like zip line.
Yeah, it would have been better if she like didn't have feet or something, or it made the gliding. It was creepy at first, but then like the more they showed of it, it did become laughable.
Yeah.
I like how they added the backstory of Stree to kind of have you sympathize with that that spirit, that ghost, because there's so many movies where it's just like, this thing's bad, this thing's evil, and I'm sure you and I have talked about this. I hate movies where it just completely writes off the bad guy as unsalvageable, unsavable.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, it makes it less interesting to me, because then it's just like, oh, kill it. But when there are multiple ways to go about things, killing being one of the options, kind of persuading or saving being the other option, it's more interesting to me. It keeps me watching to see what the characters do. And that's not saying that like they should never kill them. It's just it when I know that that's ultimately going to be the outcome, takes away all suspense for me.
Oh, for real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like I'm bagging on this movie. I actually was enjoying it. I think just the fact that it was like half an hour longer than it was kind of drained me in a way.
Yeah. That's a big thing. In Bollywood movies are usually really long. This one's actually short for a Bollywood movie.
Yeah, this was actually like a great time length movie, but obviously we don't watch Bollywood movies on the regular and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it also helped itself by not being a full-fledged Bollywood movie and doing dance numbers every. Imagine if the ghost started actually using her feet on that zip line and started dancing. That would have been great. But I mean, I'm super happy that they didn't like break out and dance every.
Yeah, I even
minutes.
text you to make it easier on you. I was just like, there's not that
But,
much
like,
singing and dancing.
That also wasn't like a oh, if like that is going to be a thing, like I'm gonna hate this movie.
Yeah. As someone who has seen one other Bollywood movie where that is a prevalent theme, it definitely takes it out of you. I watched a movie called Shootout at Wadala, which is based on a true crime story from India. It's essentially the Goodfellas of India. And then when they do singing and dancing in the middle, it takes away all tone and suspense. So I was probably dreading that a little more than you, just because I have seen it in play and seen it not work. That's not to say it never works, but in Shootout at Wadala, it does not work.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely two different styles to how obviously a lot of other places do things and how Bollywood does their thing. I mean, like we said, the one that they did do, it fit very well. And even if they did another one, they were making festivals, like, which is the first one. They were doing like festivals. Like, if they even did another one, I wouldn't have been upset by it at all. So I mean, it really handles itself well and isn't over Bollywooding it.
Yeah,
that's definitely not a word, but I'm making it one. I mean, and the relationship between the friends was great. I think the relationship between the no-named girl and Vicky was great. I definitely thought for a long time, and this is obviously spoilers at this point, that obviously the girl was the Stree the whole time because she was doing some sketch shit.
Oh, and, they definitely had a good red herring that way.
Yeah. And then she wasn't. Which was actually a good twist. I was like, oh, that bitch is definitely, if they're going to make it easy for us, that bitch is definitely the bitch. And then she wasn't. But was she?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows? Overall, this was just, I think this is a better comedy than it is a horror, but it wouldn't be funny without the horror either, if that makes sense. I was laughing my butt off at points, and it's all because of their reaction. I admit, I like to pretend that I'm this big brain know-it-all movie fan, and for some parts I am, but when it comes to comedy, I like the dumbest shit ever. I like men being scared to the point where they scream like girls in horror movies. I think it's funny when friends cuddle each other, not because I think oh they're gay, it's funny. No, it's because it's how my friends act.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's, you connect to it way easier than
I connected to
anybody
it way
else
easier.
really.
But this just was tonally, comedic wise, my humor, where that Vicky Please scene where they keep showing each other, they keep putting their hands on top of each other, and then I don't know if you felt this way, but that scene where it's right after the dancing sequence, the prostitute comes for one friend for friendship, and then that one friend gets taken by the Stree, and when they're all accusing each other, it reminded me of every discussion center lobby for Among Us.
Yep.
Where it's just like, where were you?
It was him.
I was cutting wires in electrical. Where were you?
I watched him vent or piss on a wall.
You pissed on a wall. But it reminded me of that. I just really enjoyed it overall. I do agree with you that there's a good chunk of it that I don't want to say isn't completely necessary, but like the majority of it is unnecessary.
It's necessary. It just takes its time to be too necessary.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not even. But my favorite line of the whole movie is definitely when I think, what was it? Jana. I think Jana came back from.
He's the one that kind of looked like Jack Black's wrestling mate in Nacho Libre.
I will say yes, but I don't know.
He does. Just trust me.
Okay. When Jana came back and he started
later.
like flailing on people because obviously he was kind of like a, what's the word?
Possessed.
Yeah, possessed. I was gonna say transfixed, but possessed is a much better word. When he hits a Bitu and fucking Bitu's like, don't hit me again. I'm already at 70% damage. Yeah. I was like, what the fuck?
I forgot about that.
What a random thing to say.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I just started dying. So, I mean, this definitely has its comedic moments. It's a great film. This isn't really a jab what I'm about to say, but it felt like a Indian version of a Tyler Perry movie.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I think it was smarter than Tyler Perry.
Or like,
that's not to say Tyler Perry movies aren't good, but like they're kind of.
What was the one Medea's Boo or whatever?
Boo, Medea, Halloween or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I watched parts of that movie. I didn't watch the whole thing, but it felt like the comedic aspects of it without being like cringy. So like we got past the cringe factor when we watched actually a good Indian Tyler Perry movie somehow.
But yeah, this was a huge surprise to me. I really enjoyed it. It actually reminded me. I do kind of want to try to watch more Bollywood movies, but I really got to like sift through the ones that have a bunch of musical numbers in them. It's just not my thing. I have no problem with the fact that they do that. It's just, not my thing. But I mean, India produces the most films per year than any other country, even more than the United States. So there are thousands of movies per year you could watch being made from India. That Speaking of which, there was a trailer before I saw Shootout at Wadala for a movie that I really want to see. It's an Indian movie, but I can't remember the name. And all I know is that it was Indian. The trailer reminded me of every like independent whisper dialogue over beautiful scenery trailer. And then it was snowy. The woman was wearing red, and there was a part with a whole bunch of trees covering a road. So, if anyone knows what the hell that is, comment or DM us on Instagram, Keystone_film_review, because I want to watch that goddamn movie, but I can't remember anything about it other than I really like the trailer.
Say maybe you could somehow find
and it came out in 2013, 2014-ish.
Just say maybe you could find the well, you narrowed it down to those times at least, but that's probably what 100,000
maybe
movies?
2012 at the earliest, but definitely within those 3 years. But yeah, so if anyone knows, but
Please
I don't got
help.
anything else to say other than that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't either. Rating this is gonna be tough for me.
Yeah. Would you like me to go first?
Yes.
Okay. So if I'm completely honest, I feel like you're leaning towards it not being a shelf boy, which I'm fine with if that's what you ultimately decide. But to me, this kind of opened my eyes to breaking the stereotypes of Bollywood movies. Yes, the stereotypes are there, but they're not as prevalent. It breaks away from it. It creates its own thing. It creates enough of a universal comedy and horror to make it, palatable for all countries and backgrounds, essentially. And for that, the universality of it, I would say that this does deserve to be on the shelf. Because it really just surprised me. Honestly, it's out of the 25 movies I watched last week, it's probably in the top like 5 or 6 of the movies I watched last week. So for that, I would say yes, it does deserve to go on the shelf. But I am okay with whatever you decide.
Yeah, for me, and here's how I feel. But for me, this movie, if we were comparing this to basically any other movie, this movie to me was just okay.
That's fair.
Like, I mean, I enjoyed watching it. I gave it I think a 3 on 3 out of 5 out of Letterboxd. But I mean, that's me watching. This is probably one of my first ever Bollywood movies, to be honest. So that's
my second one. So.
Yeah, so this is probably one of the better ones out there, and this is a completely different style, and I can't really compare it to just regular movies that we see every day.
Yeah.
So I have to take it in mind that this isn't exactly what I watch every day, and this is a different style. And do I enjoy the style of how they, or not do I enjoy the style, but do I enjoy how they did it in the style that is their movies? And I think overall, it's probably going to be a yes, because if I go further down the line and I'm like, well, all these other Bollywood movies suck in comparison to this one. Well, I just committed arson and I'm a murderer. Jesus Christ, why would I do? I think putting it on the shelf is a good thing, because if we do, and if Netflix screws us more out of this, I think there will be more down the line where I will regret not putting this one on the shelf, comparing it to other ones.
Yeah.
So I think it goes on. I think it goes on.
I'm very pleased about that. And of course, the shelf is not a permanent thing. Eventually, probably around episode 100, we're going to go back through all the ones that we've discussed and see if they still deserve to be on the shelf. But for now, Stree is on the shelves with the likes of Apostle and Handmaiden. And as far as I'm concerned, those are the only two that are.
Yeah, those are the only two. We didn't do any other ones.
Yeah. But that brings us to our plugs for next week. Glenn, I'm going to make you go first for this. What is your plug for next week?
Okay, perfect. For me, I watched a very hilarious video many weeks ago, before I got furloughed at Regal. And it was a great time. But it actually just re-released, and that is Bad Lip Reading on the Debate Night 2020. It's almost like they copy-pasted it, because it's just like the most absurd thing. Everything they jibber-jabbered about in the debate is pretty much the same thing in this video. I don't want to get political or anything, but it actually is a hilarious video. Just the random shit they say in the video, and it actually feels like they're saying that's the whole point of the channel itself.
Yeah.
And if you watch the debate, that was a time, and if you didn't, well, you watch this video and it's practically summed up for you. So that is Bad Lip Readings Debate Night 2020 on their YouTube channel.
Guys, hey, you know what that sound means?
5 favorites.
Cinco favoritos.
And President Trump, you're up first.
Just go.
Your favorite nickname for yourself.
Cougar Heart.
Your favorite bill.
The gas bill, I'd say.
Your favorite animal sound.
Bzz.
Your favorite scent to smell in a lover.
Ashtray.
Your favorite place to meet ex-circus performers.
All right, so that is Glenn's plug. My plug for this week. If I'm completely honest, I picked this like 2 minutes before we started recording, so it still looks pretty interesting. It is 33 minutes long, and I've only watched 2 minutes of it, so keep that in mind. But it seemed pretty interesting for the which is why I picked it. That is on the YouTube channel, The Cinema Cartography, a video called The Cinematography That Changed Cinema. From what I've seen in the last 2 minutes that I watched, it is exactly as it advertises. It's cinematography that changed cinema forever. Going back, right now they're talking about Kurosawa and how he changed cinematography.
Absolutely.
If I'm honest, I haven't gotten too much, so I don't know how he changed cinematography yet, but I'm sure I'm going to find out. But it's, at the very least, you're going to look up beautiful images. If you want to just turn on music and just turn this on in the background and watch it, maybe link up to the music or not, do that. So that is the cinematography that changed cinema on the Cinema Cartography.
Lighting, lenses, everything seems insignificant when compared to the scale of crowds, colourful large masses of people and creatures conveying messages that seem to be overwhelming our world, that they practically become the world. Anything natural is discarded to bask in the glory of the hermetic and symbolic. Wide shots shoot colourful sets in their entirety so that nothing goes out of frame where it shouldn't.
The tarot will teach you how to create a soul.
It may seem chaotic, but Jodorowsky's message is so precise that the cinematography needs to display everything in its glory. The images will thus speak for themselves.
All right.
So those are our plugs for this week. Now comes the time where I discuss what we're going to watch next week. It is my turn, Glenn.
It is your turn.
The Spooktacular is over, unfortunately, but also maybe fortunately because it gives us a wider range of movies to pick.
Absolutely.
So to celebrate the end of a wonderful spooktacular. I'm going to go back to a time about 2 years ago when we first started this podcast. One of the first movies we discussed 2 years ago when we first started this was They'll Love Me When I'm Dead, which is about Orson Welles and his life, and also the film that he never finished. He died while making a movie. That movie was always, since the time that we did that podcast, available on Netflix, but I also kind of wanted to separate it so it didn't seem like we were just doing an Orson Welles podcast.
Yeah.
But I feel like 2 years is plenty of enough time to start watching and discussing The Other Side of the Wind, which is on Netflix.
Okay.
It is directed by Orson Welles, written by Orson Welles and Oja Kodar, or Oya Kodar, however you pronounce that. Keep in mind this was released in 2018 because it was finished posthumously for Orson Welles. It is starring John Huston, Oya Kodar, Peter Bogdanovich, and Susan Strasberg. It is about a Hollywood director who emerges from semi-exile with plans to complete work on an innovative motion picture.
Jay can't afford.
The Ernest Hemingway of the cinema.
I just want to know what he represents.
The man is infested with disciples. I'm the apostle.
Just like me and God. How could you tell us apart?
Patrick's new movie?
The Other Side of the Wind.
What's that about the movie?
We don't talk about the movie.
So you old guys are trying to get with it. Is that what this movie's about?
Well, we don't actually know.
What do we know? Jake is just making it up as he goes along.
So if you also want to watch that documentary, if you haven't already, it kind of goes into the making of the documentary or the film a little bit, and how he did die, unfortunately, before the film was completed. But we're going to take a stab at watching this film and see how it is.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good. So that is The Other Side of the Wind on Netflix. Thank you, everybody, for listening. As always, you can check out our website, KeystoneFilmReview.com. On Instagram, Keystone_Film_Review. On Twitter, Keystone_Film. On Facebook, Keystone Film Review. And on YouTube, Keystone Film Review. And on Letterboxd, I am Mike, KFR.
And I am Glenn, KFR.
And that will do it until next week when I hopefully remember all of our social medias in one sitting.
So you know how bad it would be if I did them?
It's really bad. I don't even read them. I just do them off the top of my head.
Yeah, Keystone.
Keystone Film Review.
Keystone, that review thing. Follow us.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.